Are you struggling with how to plan out your garden now that you've decided to grow one? Well, even if you are a seasoned gardener, you know that it takes a ton of time to plan out where you're going to plant something, when you're going to sow it, how many days is 50 to 60 days from the last frost date. It can get complicated. Don't give up before you start. In this video, I'm going to show you a very easy to use online program that I discovered that helps me automate that process, and you can use it for free. Hi everybody, Cheryl and Lady, coming to you from a snowy, cold January day. Frodo says hi too. I used to map out my garden beds on graph paper, look up the seed packet information, subtract my sowing days from my planting days to the appropriate days for my last spring frost in my calendar, write it down, and it would take a lot of frustrating hours. I think the reason so many people give up on gardening is because they get to the planning phase and it's so complicated, they don't feel like it's worth it for them to go forward. But we live in 2022, people. We have technology that makes our lives easier. My grandfather was the advisor for the Marion County Farm Bureau in Southern Illinois for many years. Here he is with my dad. And growing up, Papa always had the Old Farmer's Almanac at home. For a girl who was visiting from the overcrowded Northeast where I lived, this was unusual to see, and I loved reading it. So years later, during the pandemic, when I got very serious about growing my food, I discovered the Almanac had an online version. And since Papa always trusted its information, I checked it out and realized it is probably the greatest free resources for gardeners I've found. So their website is almanac.com. It has extensive gardening information, including growing guides for all types of plants, your last and first frost dates, planting calendars, info on how to combat pests and diseases, gardening tasks by month, very handy, and lots of gardening advice. But their software program, the Garden Planner, is an amazing tool for automating some of the most complicated data. It makes planning my garden easy and quick. For example, it gives me accurate timing for planting in my climate, guides spacing between plants, and even helps me choose companion plants, and it's based on science. The Garden Planner makes it simple to sketch out your garden beds, add plants, and rearrange them to get your perfect layout. They use an extensive database of about 200 crops and nearly 5,000 weather stations to recommend sowing and planting times based on your average frost dates for your zip code. And I've checked against my seed packets and it's accurate. There is an annual subscription with much more bells and whistles, but for the planning part that I'm going to show you now, you really only need the 7-day trial. The annual subscription price is $29 for the year. I personally think it is very well worth it for all of the information and uses I can get out of it, but just so you know, I don't have any affiliation with the Garden Planner or Farmer's Almanac. I'm just telling you this because I use it myself and I really like it. So to start, subscribe to get the 7-day free trial. And then when you're done with that, go to the Garden Planner. That's Ben, by the way, from Grow Veg, a great gardening YouTuber, by the way. And hit Create New Plan. I named this Example. Then enter the size of your backyard. And if you don't know it exactly, that's fine. You can always edit it later. Just go for now with the default, whatever it is, 32 by 32. So on this side of the planner here is a very comprehensive list of plants. And it even can show you companion plants. What we're going to do is we're going to start down our list. And we're going to drag, click and drag over to our plot. We don't really have to start thinking about how many plants we're going to plant right now. What we want to do is just get all of your plants that are on your list into your plot. Anyway, I'm not going to do the whole thing. You get the idea. You go down your list and just click and drop your list of plants. I'll have a video up shortly about how I created my garden beds and did so without any digging and just by using mostly materials I found around the house in the backyard. You'll have plenty of time, just so you know, to create garden beds this spring and add containers and pots if you want. But if you'd like to see that video, hit the subscribe button and make sure you click on the alert bell so that you'll be notified when it's available. So I took a few minutes to draft this plan of the garden based on where this imaginary yard has the best sun. I created 2 4x8 beds because I find them a good size. I can reach into the middle without a problem. Now those beds aren't necessarily going to have enough room for all I want to plant, so I'm putting potatoes and some other things in grow bags and the flowers and herbs in pots. And then this is the cool part. We come to the plant list. Plants are listed alphabetically, automatically. It gives you the number of plants, the spacing you need between plants, and most importantly, the timing. When to sow indoors is in blue, when to plant out in the garden in green, and when you should expect harvest in orange. There's even a section where you can add notes. So now we're going to print this out, and we have everything we need to plan and schedule out our gardens. Do you have any idea how much time this saves me? And I'm telling you, it's going to save you a ton of time too. So from here, since we know when we have to sow them indoors, you can just mark that on your calendar or just follow this list. But what we're going to go over now is the outdoor to harvest times, because the outdoor to harvest times is going to tell you when they need to be in your ground. To specify the in-ground date, just double-click a plant. Basil's first on the list, and it gets planted outside in May here and is harvested July through September. So click Specify In-Ground Dates and set it to May to September. You can do this with all your plants and then look at what your plot will look like month by month. There's so much more to the garden planner, but for the purposes of helping plan your garden easier, this is the gist, I think, of what I've covered. But if you have any suggestions on how you make your garden planning easier, less time consuming, please leave them in the comments below. And also, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them. If this has helped you in any way, if you've learned anything, please give it a like. I hope that this rather simplified way of planning your garden using the Farmer's Almanac Garden Planner is really going to help you save a lot of time and a lot of aggravation when it comes to planning your garden, because there's nothing worse than when people give up before they even start. I hope it encourages you to keep going on this gardening journey so that you can learn and be confident in growing your own food this year, and realize there's going to be bumps along the way. It's the journey that counts. So enjoy it. On behalf of Lady and I, say goodnight, Lady. Good girl. She says goodnight.